And let's see.
And then I have a question for you.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Let's see. I believe that we are live. That is
Well,
wonderful. And I am just going to make sure I get the chat as well.
yeah, I won't be able to see the chat.
No, I will most likely be able to see the chat. So I just wanted to see if I can get that going. All right. So I am here, and I'm just going to go right back so I get back to where we're supposed to. Wait, did I lose you?
Me?
No.
I'm here.
Okay. And we are, okay, let's go. So I am here with Stan Tatkin. Stan is a doctor of psychology, marriage and family therapist, clinician, researcher, teacher, and developer of a psychobiological approach to couples therapy, Pact. But more interesting, if I looked at some of the things that people actually say about him, is the man is brilliant, sharp, using cutting edge understanding of the way we bond and maximize our relationships. He is truly amazing, and he is a genuine mentor. In fact, he's got this Buddha vibe about him. So I thought that is a pretty good intro with having a Buddha vibe. Wouldn't you say, Stan?
I was giggling a little because with the COVID stay-at-home order, I'm becoming a little bit more and more like Buddha, just in my belly. Just now, I just need to turn gold.
Yeah, and a little kind of halo on
Yeah,
top of it.
yeah. I don't know. Did the Buddha have a halo at all? I think Jesus had a halo. I'm not. A Buddha didn't have a halo. I think Buddha had a
A little
donut.
circle, I
That
think.
was a donut. He was eating donuts as
Oh, that was probably what the Buddha was
Krispy
doing.
Kreme. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. And we are live on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube. We're going to have people from all across the world. And Anna, please, Anna R., please WhatsApp me any questions, and I'll get them that way. And I want to dive right into it because relationship is probably the most difficult things that we have on Earth right now. So, can you give like a quick overview, first of all, about Pact and the method that you use?
Well, psychobiology is the study of the brain and the body, and psychobiologists typically study infants and study infant brain development and infant development and development throughout the lifespan. But in particular, uh, social emotional development, how good we are in the area of being able to read our own cues and to read other people's faces and to read sound, prosody, vocal tone, all of that that makes us easy to get along with, people that other people want to be with, people who are facile in relationships, and particularly good at brokering win-win situations. People who get along with a wide swath of others are people who generally got a lot of face-to-face, skin-to-skin, eye-to-eye contact in the first 18 months of life.
Right.
So we study couples. We study them by videotaping, although right now, no, and using the video, the digital video, to play back to them at times
Mm-hmm.
what we see, but we pay really close attention to micro expressions and micro movements as a way of tracking a very fine-tuned, moment-by-moment somatic reactions in the face and the body. And we
Wow.
use digital analysis to look back at the video to begin to understand the human animal.
Well, Wired for Love, I said when I looked at the description, one of the books that you've written is a complete insider's guide to understanding your partner's brain. I mean, that's what we're all struggling with, I think.
Without doing an autopsy, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think I've said this many times. The hardest, you said, relationships. The most difficult thing. People are the most difficult thing on the planet. Uh, cats, dogs, kids are a little easier than adult primary attachment partners. They're the hardest.
Well, I'd like to know. I'm going to read that book because I haven't, but I've looked at it. So, in an article, I just want to talk about a little bit because we're in this kind of lockdown and it's various degrees in around the world. But an article in Forbes said that only 18% are satisfied with their communication during the pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know the veracity of that study. I haven't looked at it, but I don't know that human communication has been worse during this period. I think it's always been terrible. Um, it's we don't realize that Homo sapiens, uh, the words we used were basically eat, sit, sleep, lion, duck, run. Our language has become so entirely complex,
Mm,
and real time is so fast that we're mostly misunderstanding each other most of the time, actually.
got it. So,
Not
I have
really.
a question from an audience.
Sure.
And the question was, why are partners the most difficult ones?
Because it's an interdependent relationship or a dependency type of relationship, the only kind that we have, except for the earliest ones. And so it carries a long memory with it. So if I'm fine and everything's great, and then I meet you, my dear, and I start to feel like I depend on you, that's when I begin to remember what it's like to depend on somebody. And if I got hurt in that area, then I behave in certain ways that protect myself. So I may be afraid of you rejecting me or abandoning me or smothering me or taking my independence or punishing me. I will do things. I will behave in ways that kind of get you to do it. Uh, what I'm afraid of is driving my behavior,
Right.
and we call that insecure attachment. Insecure attachment is I don't feel from very early. I don't feel very secure in my primary attachment figures, and so there's a push pull or there's a push away or I want to be alone all the time or I want you to be near me all the time. You know, there's anxiety there pretty much all the time.
It is. It is so difficult. I have to agree. Now, I also read in this article, which is written by someone else from Forbes, but it was that the number one argument during this time is about sex, of course, and it's
Sure.
about when to have sex. Now, how much is sex a argument with couples in
Well,
your
everyone knows you should have sex at 6 p.m. every night. I mean, that settles that matter. I'm kidding.
Oh,
There's no in my field, um we have a saying, there's no angels, no devils. Where there's one, there's always the other, and it's never about what people say it's about. It's never really about sex. It's about the interactions. So we may be fighting about sex a lot, but our problems can be found in the interactions that repeat every time we're in distress. And for some people, it's an area, actually, a lot of people, sex is one of those areas of distress. So is money. So is time. So is messiness. Right. And so uh, uh, this is just a prime area that people will fight, uh, but it's not really about sex.
well, I would
It's
say for me, my experience in the past with relationship, one of the biggest, as you just said, is actually the arguments about messiness.
messiness, yes.
I would have to say that's one if in my next relationship or in my relationship that I'm currently in, actually, it's getting that very straight. And I actually, because he's on the other side of the world, so I actually said to him today that I'm really bad at cleaning my dishes after dinner, just so you know. And he said, that's okay, I'll do them. Okay, that's an arrangement. That's good.
Yes, I think that's very, very good. There's that's one example. One example.
Is that
Uh,
good or bad, actually, or was that incorrect to do that?
There's no good or bad or right or wrong. The only thing that there has to be in my world is shared power, and that both partners are operating under principles of fairness and justice and sensitivity, and that they're fully collaborative and cooperative with each other. That's it. So your agreements are your agreements as long as both people are keeping in mind fairness. So maybe he slips on doing the dishes, but he's going to do something else for you, or maybe you're going to hold him to it. You said you would do it. Do it. Right.
Harsh. But, so another question I have is I heard our Six Senses Lamu general manager, Martine, she said she read something the other day that a man said, I'm really happy that I've been able during this quarantine to catch up with my wife since 30 years. And I've also really understood all the things I've done wrong the past 30 years.
Wow. Let's see.
So that was his summary of the quarantine. I don't know
Right.
if that's, but I guess in a quarantine, things get a bit heated and you get frustrated on each other and you point out each other's fault quite a lot, would you say?
Yes. I mean, we're going back to a time that we actually did this more often. We hung around each other more often. We didn't drive to an office, or fly in planes to go somewhere else. As hunter gatherers, we might stray a little bit to hunt or to gather, but we would meet at home, and most of the time we'd spend, at home. We didn't work nearly as hard as we do today. And so, yeah, I think people are getting sort of acclimated to the idea of being home with their kids, being home with their partners. And, I think it's not as pleasant to have to do that, I guess, but people can learn a lot from this time. It's kind of a wake up call when you think about it, because right now we have a virus that we can't see. It's called unseen fear, but that will still be there when COVID goes away, or takes its place among other viruses. There's always a threat. There's always been a threat out there, and usually that allows us to realize that we have to depend on each other. We have to trust each other. We have to work out ways that we can trust each other with our lives. And we generally don't get that memo. We think that we can do everything ourselves and we don't need another person, but we do. And so maybe this will be a time for people to learn finally how to actually work together.
Yeah, and I heard one person I spoke to yesterday. She said she's from New York, or she lives in New York, and she said, "When this is over, I'm never ever again going to say no to anyone inviting me for a drink or a dinner like I've done before because of work. I'm going to say yes to everything." Now, I have a question from audience again, and that is, how do you break a negative cycle of insecure attachment so you don't repeat for future relationships?
Well, it's a great question. The answer is that it has to be done in a relationship. We're hurt by people, we're healed by people. So you can't become secure by yourself. I know a lot of people think they can, but actually it doesn't work that way. So a secure functioning relationship where partners are mature, they understand that parenting doesn't end with parenting, that they're in each other's care, that they have to learn to be experts on each other, and they can actually do more to heal the past than any therapist could ever do. But they'd have to understand how this works. Naturally, we will do what we remember, and what we remember is what we've experienced, and that's as fancy as we get. We just repeat everything. But if we're smart, I can start to know you deeply and know where you're injured, and I can do things that shore up your insecurity. You can do things that shore up my insecurity. That's what partnership is.
So
And
you
we
can't, so you have a relationship and you break up, and
break.
then you try to kind of fix everything in between before you meet the next relationship. But that is doesn't work, you say.
Well, it doesn't hurt if you're doing it with a therapist or your friends, and so it doesn't hurt to learn I mean, this is about learning how to deal with a very difficult animal, a human being, and to learn how to work with the animal you choose, right? Uh, how much of an expert am I going to be on you? How much am I going to pay attention to you? How good am I at you? And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to, pay attention. They don't want to be in that position. They want to be taken care of. So, uh, so uh, it's better to imagine in your next relationship. It's better to imagine what the relationship should be rather than who it should be.
Oh, that's a really good tip.
Yeah, the relationship should be fair and just. The relationship has to share power. The relationship has to be based on transparency, full transparency. The relationship has to be on absolute safety and security, guaranteed, full stop, no question. That's what we do. And anybody who doesn't seem to be someone who could fulfill that role, I'm going to pass on.
Got it. And we're getting more questions. I'm loving. Thank you, everyone, for these questions. We love it. And a very probably proper question right now is: any tips to improving tolerance towards your partner?
To improving tolerance, yeah. Um, you can play a game of this. You can, when you're feeling good, the two of you sit across from each other and be knee to knee and go eye to eye and hold it there without talking for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then have your partner say or do something that really, really irritates you.
Sorry for laughing. Okay. Yeah. So you look him or her into the eyes for 3 to 5 minutes without saying anything.
Without
And then
saying,
you say something like, why didn't you put down the toilet seat?
okay, and then you stop. You stay in my eyes, and I start to work with my body. I work with my body. All the tension that I feel, I let it go as I watch you very carefully. So it's outside meditation. My object of meditation is your face and your eyes. Your When you say or your face does something, I'm going to feel it in my body and reverberate like a bell, like being struck with a hammer. And then I watch the waves, and then I have you do it again. We have to understand that all people are annoying. There is nobody out there that isn't irritating, annoying, a burden, disappointing. Everybody is. So, what kind of irritating are you going to be? It doesn't really matter. It will be. So pick your poison and play with it and start to work with your body instead of just having your partner not say that thing, because that's not as effective. We're automatic creatures. We will do things over and over again without thinking, because automation is energy conserving. That's what our brain does. We do everything by memory. So it's more efficient for me to work with my body, but also to cue you when you do something I don't like and you've agreed, then I can cue you and say, you're doing that, stop. Okay. And then if you were true to your word, you should say, you're right, sorry.
Great.
So
Thank you.
all sorts of ways of doing this.
So I have another question here. So how to repair when we hurt each other? How do you repair?
I'm sorry.
How to repair when
No,
we hurt?
I just did it. You're
Go.
right. You're right. I
I'm
shouldn't
sorry. Sorry. Okay. Quiet.
have. It's sort of the art of falling on one's sword, of humility, of putting the relationship first over being right. And so I repair. If I broke something, I fix it, and it doesn't matter whether I think I broke it. In a relationship where we agree that comes first, that you feel that I misunderstood you, that you feel or sense that I said something that was hurtful, that's all that matters. And so I'm sorry I did that, not I'm sorry you think that. Um, I bow, I fix it,
Mm.
I make it right because we're tied together. Where you go, I go. And I want you to do the same with me. The world outside won't do that. The world outside is indifferent. The world outside likes to get even, but you and I don't.
Mm.
So, uh, so, so we this is with our kids too. I was wrong. I shouldn't have raised my voice. That's all I say. I don't say, but I did that because I don't.
That I think is one of the most important things I've ever heard, because we tend to say, or I tend to say, I'll take responsibility for it. Say, uh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you think so. I think that's a really, and that's kind of like, you're the problem, not me. So that is something that and also, yeah, we always try to justify, I raised my voice because, instead of just
Right.
saying,
I
I'm
do
sorry.
that.
It's a hard one to do, though. It is hard when you feel that you didn't do wrong, for instance.
Because of our histories, our family histories, but also it's part of our nature as human beings to be aggressive and to protect ourselves from harm. Even if the person is our dearest loved one, we can feel threatened, and uh, we start to rally our forces to protect ourselves, and we'll do anything, even at the cost of the relationship, which is a flaw, a feature in one area with humans and a flaw in another area.
So we have another question, and I think this one is something that a lot of people can relate to. How to overcome insecure feelings related to relationships which stem from childhood experiences.
Well, there's the rub, yes. That has to happen, and as we get older, if we come from insecure families, and let me define what that is. And in a family where there's an insecure culture, an insecure way of interacting, is one that is overly oriented toward being pro self and not pro relationship.
Hmm.
So, on one side, I'm pro performance, appearance, right? I focus in areas that are performative. And in the other area, I focus on I need you to take care of me. I need you to shore up my hurt feelings or my depression or my alcoholism, whatever it is you had to do. So both are ripoffs, both are unfair, and both are pro self. Now we grow up if that wasn't corrected, and we do the same thing. So I will focus on you as being unfair and focusing only on yourself, but that's what I'm doing as well. So the only way to reorient ourselves is for two people to come together and decide what this should be. Why are we doing this? What's the point of us? It cannot be based on love. It has to be based on a purpose or a set of purposes. This is what we do for each other. This is what we don't do. We build our world anew based on what we think it should be, our ethics, not our parents. And that only two people can do, not one person, because then we're back to a one person system again.
So you would recommend that when you're in a relationship, whether it's new or old, that you sit down with that person and kind of make the purpose of this relationship and how one wants to act and define it. Is that a good?
Yes. Yeah. Imagine any society, any civilization not knowing what its purpose is. Imagine any group not knowing what its mission is. Imagine any corporation not knowing what its vision is. Imagine any country not knowing what its flag is or what its motto is. Why do we do this? What's the point of us? Well, one is so we don't kill and rob each other. That's great. That's that's the stick. Where's the carrot? Well, we believe in something greater than ourselves. We believe in the same thing. That's how we pull each other along. What does the couple believe in? And if I were to ask, what's the point of you guys? Who or what do you serve? I want to know the answer. Most of my couples won't have a good answer.
How
We're
often do you do this with your wife?
every morning. No, we actually can answer the question if we're asked right away. Um, we we protect each other in public and private.
So that's your purpose.
We make each other better. We move each other up. We push each other to do more than we otherwise would do. We fill the deficits that the other has. We use our strengths together. We love people and we do good in the world and we care about people and the people around us. We believe in being good leaders and good examples for people inside and outside, in private and public. So we're perfectly imperfect, um, but we have a purpose and we have a vision for where we want to be.
That is beautiful. Now I'm going to take this back to quarantine. And a question is, what are your top tips to strengthen a relationship when in quarantine?
Spend time together eye to eye. Now, there's some people who don't like to do that because of, again, their history. Eye contact is one of the most intense things we do because we're visual animals. But we fall in love through the eyes. We fall in love with our kitties and our puppies, with our children. We fall in love with each other through the eyes. And so mutual gazing at times, being quiet with each other, spending time undistracted, try to be bored with each other. I mean, bored at the same time, just being with each other, and then move where spontaneously where you want to go in real time. Um, Come up with where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Who do you want to admire the relationship? In what way would the relationship be admirable in 5 years? Practice getting in and out of fights. Set a timer for 10 minutes. We have Tracy dropped off. We have an email campaign right now. 7 ways of fighting well. Actually, 7 days, and it's a bunch of exercises.
Yeah, we're going to put that link in because I think we need that. Also have a follow-up question from someone that's listening in, and that's is how come love is not enough?
Because love, like all feelings, waxes and wanes. I love you right now, but in the next 5 minutes, I can hate you. Maybe in 10 years, because I'm developmentally going through a stage, I'm not that into you. I see a shiny object over there. Why not just go for that? I don't like you right now, so I'm not going to do this. So that's the human condition. The human condition is to be what we are, and that is selfish, self-centered, aggressive, fickle, opportunistic creatures who are always comparing and contrasting and always aware of what's missing. So in order to have guardrails, there has to be a sense of purpose and a sense of principle that we live by, that we believe in. And those principles, those guardrails are for when we don't feel like it. The problem isn't when we feel good. Everyone's groovy when they feel good. Even the worst criminal is a nice person when they're feeling good. You don't want to be there when they're not feeling good. We're supposed to do better than that, you and I. We're supposed to be able to weather all storms and even fight without ever threatening the relationship. We can get in and out of distress quickly, you and I, and that is the most important thing. Regardless of how I feel about you, I still do the right thing. I don't do what feels good. I do what is better, and that's based on purpose and principle. Otherwise, we're the Wild West. It's chaos, and that's most couples.
Yeah, no, I have to relate to that. So a final question here is that if someone just like me are in a relationship, but we're not in the same place during this time, and so you have a long distance relationship, any tips on how to deal with that?
Well, we're at a time where we have all this technology, like what we're doing right now. At some point, someone is going to come up, manufacturer, with having a camera inside the monitor so that it'll replicate, like I'm looking at you right now, my dear, replicate that we're looking eye to eye, but I have to look into the camera up here in order to do that. So we're getting closer to being able to do remote connections. It doesn't replace skin to skin, but it certainly is better than our ancestors had. You know, we have Netflix, we have FaceTime, we have Facebook and Twitter, and so there is a way to do it. But I think closing the night together, putting each other to bed at night, even though it's at different time zones,
Mm.
even waking up together if that's possible, so that there's a sense of being tethered, that that you're not a ball and chain, you're my tether, you're my constant. And no matter where I am in the world, no matter what is going on and swirling in this indifferent world of ours, I have you. And you're in my mind, and I can contact you at any time. You can contact me at any time. That is worth a lot of money.
It is. Yeah.
And,
Really is.
and just the final thing to say is that if we're doing this right, you and I, we're doing things for each other that nobody would want to do unless they got paid a ton of money. It's an expensive proposition, and it's all because we decide to do it. All because we decide to. Let's do this, let's not do that. People don't realize this, and people have been doing this since the beginning of civilization. All kinds of people who hated each other for generations, working together
Yeah,
because they
very
decided.
right. So wonderful. And anything you want to end with before I say thank you? Because I've learned so much, and I'm going to do so many of these exercises, and I'm going to sit down and write down the purpose and principles. As soon as I see him, I'm going to go and do this eye to eye and upset him. Can't wait. That will be fun. There's so many things I've learned that I didn't know. So, but any final words?
Well, that other exercise of being in each other's eyes, you can do it as a meditation. And the way it would work is that I would be watching every shift and change in your face and your eyes, skin color, everything, muscle movement. And every time I notice a change, I tap on my thigh, noting change, change, change. And you're doing that as well. You're not saying anything, so it's not distracting. And I'm using as an object of meditation the constant shift and change in your face, in your pupils. And this alerts us to two things. One, how the face is a beautiful kaleidoscope of the nervous system live.
Mm.
And that's slightly strangerish and novel, for the automatic brain to go back into real time and to see novelty, to see the stranger that is our partner. It's exciting. So it brings back being in real time. And we also begin to learn our partner's smallest changes in the face. And that's going to be very important for reading each other in the future.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So we have quite a few exercises, and
Yeah.
for you, and thank you for everyone who's been watching. We have people from Asia, although it's really late, Europe, America, and back and forth. So we have had a lot of questions, a lot of people there. Incredibly grateful. This will be posted on our pages, so you can go back. I need to go back and kind of write down everything because I learned so much. And also we will pin the books, and also this 7 ways to fight, 7 days, 7 fighting in a good way. Was that
Yes,
correct?
in a good way. Yes.
Kind of. Well, I wish you the best day over there in California, and sending
You are
you
so
lots of love and
delightful.
blessings, and hope that everything goes well, and that you're feeling well and are safe and
Thank
happy.
you.
And thank you so much. We so appreciate this. And At Home with Six Senses, our social media campaign, where we just try to reach out to everyone that we can with what experts we can get a hold of. So thank you, Stan. I think this has been very valuable for all our listeners.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun chatting with you beforehand as well.
Yes, that was really interesting. So give my best to your wife, your lovely wife,
Thank you.
and
Thank
have a
you.
lovely day.
And give your kids a hug for me. I'm sure they'll
I
love
will.
that.
They are so cute.
I
But
know.
all kids. Thanks.
Well.
Bye.